Welcome to the Money Mile Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Waller, and I'm happy you are here. We like to think of Money Mile as standing at the corner of triathlon and personal finance, and we believe that age group triathletes are the lifeblood of our sport, and we like to shine the light on some good people doing great things in our sport. Today, we are going to have our Questions on Course segment and a new guest to the show, Blake Anderson, a real estate agent in California and Arizona, endurance athlete, and a good friend of mine. Stick around to hear from Blake about how the commitment he has to his clients and to his business has earned him recognition as one of the innovative leaders in real estate. That all after our Question on Course. Please keep in mind that these questions are for educational purposes only and not financial advice specifically about your individual situation. Given the guest on our podcast today, I thought it would be appropriate to bring back a question that I get several times a year, and I think this will be in alignment with the conversation with Blake, and it is essentially, how much house can I afford? And the second part of that is, should I wait for interest rates to get better? First, we should get the obvious aspect out of the way. When you get approved for a home loan or a mortgage, they will likely issue you an approval letter for a maximum loan amount they think you can pay back without breaking you. This does not mean this is the amount you can afford and live comfortably. They're two different things. Many argue that early in life, you should lean into the home purchases and equity markets, but depending upon where you live and the way you want to live your life, renting a home is not necessarily a bad idea. There are lots of factors that go into this, but it is a worthwhile consideration, so sometimes it's good to just take a breath and think about that. Generally, I only recommend purchasing a home if you see yourself staying in that home for at least 5 years. If you know you are going to be somewhere for a short-term arrangement and are going to sell the house when you leave, this is a risky endeavor and you will likely be better off renting. If we assume, for the sake of today's conversation, that you have decided you want to purchase a home, I suggest that you keep the home-oriented expenses to less than 1/3 of your take-home income. This includes principal and interest on your mortgage, homeowners insurance, homeowners association fees, if applicable, and any direct housing maintenance, for example, a gardener, pool service, etc. This will allow you to live a well-balanced lifestyle and not be house poor. I also recommend using a 15-year mortgage if you can, and a 30-year fixed mortgage if you must. But again, I recommend fixed mortgages. You can always refinance later if interest rates get better. Depending upon where you live, you might need to lean into this a little bit because the cost of housing can be very high. Residents of large metro areas like San Francisco will certainly be able to appreciate this consideration. If you have some difficulty making the math on all of this work out for the level of home you'd like to live in, I suggest considering increasing your down payment to make the principal and interest payment more affordable. Generally, I recommend starting with at least 20% down, and that will help long-term equity building as well as making sure the cash flow works out. But if you need to go higher than that in order to make the overall cash flow work, that's something that you may want to consider. And this brings me to my next point. I often get asked about interest rates and whether or not you should postpone purchasing a home in the hopes that interest rates improve or that the housing market gets better or worse, depending upon your circumstances. In my opinion, if you want to buy a house and you are ready to do so, find the house that works for you and purchase it. Prices and interest rates have historically moved with some degree of correlation. If rates go down, prices go up. So one way or the other, the financials tend up working out pretty similarly. If you are planning on being there for 5 years and the rates get better in that period of time, if they get better enough, you can also refinance. I hope that was a valuable segment for you and you learned something that will help you live a better financial life. And now let's turn our attention to Blake Anderson. Blake was raised in the real estate industry, learning aspects of the business from his stepfather, who was a real estate broker. Blake has grown his real estate business exponentially, becoming one of the preeminent real estate agents in Northern California and Arizona. He has helped thousands of families buy and sell real estate throughout California and Arizona and sell more homes than 98.5% of all agents in the nation. Blake is also a loving husband, father of 2 beautiful girls, a record-breaking ultramarathon athlete, a three-time Ironman triathlete, a published author, has worked and traveled through 35 countries, and is a motivational speaker, helping people overcome addiction and find their maximum potential. Blake, welcome to Money Mile.
Hey, Justin. Thanks for having me.
Blake, if we're doing this correctly, our listeners are out there somewhere on their long, steady run. So we'll put links in the show notes so our listeners can catch up with you and connect with everything that you're doing when they're all done with their run. Is that okay with you?
It sure is. Yeah. Thank you.
Wonderful. Blake, this is a show about triathlon and finance. I was hoping you could share with our listeners a little bit about how you got started in triathlon way back in the day.
Back in the day, it might have been 14 years ago now. Honestly, I am an accidental triathlete. And by that, I mean, I was never into it. I never thought I would be into it. I made a change in my life. Your intro kind of touched on it. I was a alcoholic and drug addict. I needed to change my life. And I changed one obsession over a negative, turned it towards a positive. And it started with running. It started looking at running videos and ultra videos. And I started looking at YouTube videos of Ironman, thinking, wow, to myself, that's amazing. How can the human body do that stuff? And I got into it just by kind of obsessing over it, thinking to myself, I just signed up for my first race, post sobriety, a 50K race, because I wanted to do a little bit more than a marathon distance, because I felt like everyone does that, the marathon. I wanted to, I guess, set myself apart a bit. But before the marathon even, or the 50K even happened, I signed up for an Ironman. I just did it, not knowing what I was going to do with myself to train or to finish. I didn't know if I would even finish, to be honest with you. So that's how it started. And it kind of just snowballed from there. One led to two to three and other things.
Other things like setting the record at 100 miler, stuff like that, other things?
Yeah, another thing like signing up for an Ironman, never having done a triathlon before. I signed up for a 100 miler, never having done any more than at that point, a 50. And not knowing what I was going to do with training. Thankfully, I had YouTube as a partner. So YouTube helped me immensely.
It was a great thing that you found some solid resources out there to help you along your way. But obviously, you don't break a record at a 100-mile run without putting in some tremendous effort on your part. I'm kind of curious, when you look back at that effort, was there something in particular that stood out to you that really inspired you to do so well at a 100-mile run?
Well, the 50 I had just done left me with a tremendous amount of pain. I never thought I could even finish 100. But I started YouTubing 100-milers, 100-mile athletes, and I'm a real systems guy. Everything in my life is based on systems and functioning. I kind of think of myself as a robot. Like, if I was a robot, how could I move that great distance and do it efficiently? It has to do with a lot of things. It has to do with, in my opinion, diet's one, your stride, your posture. By diet, I meant pre-race. And then during the race is another form of diet. Then you got to break it down, your system. So when are you drinking? Are you drinking every 5 minutes? Are you eating something every 10 minutes? How are you going to do that? Is somebody going to hand it to you? I hope so, because if you want to be really efficient, you need to have that stuff off your back. Everything with your hands. How are your hands moving? What's your chin doing? What's your back doing? To what degree are you moving forward with your back? Like, how much is gravity taking you? How much are you working against yourself? All of those things, you have to think about them and practice them and put them into your practice runs until they become normal.
That's second nature. Well, that's awesome. And you have such an attention to detail of the little aspects of running long distance, and you were able to have a tremendous accomplishment by doing that. I'm curious, how did those different aspects of your athletic career evolve, and now you're essentially taking a lot of those similar thought processes and systems into the real estate industry, as I understand it. Is that correct?
It sure is. I think real estate, as I've come to see it, is two things. It's relationships and it's systems. And I don't think you can go wrong with either of those, but I think we all gravitate towards a different part. I'm a systems guy, like I said. I'm not that warm and fuzzy guy. I mean, having said that, there's relationships are definitely part of my business growth, but systems totally. To me, it's how can you sell an incredible amount of homes and have people look back and say, how do you do that? You don't have an assistant. You're doing that all by yourself. What's the deal? And to me, it's systems. How are you operating on an hourly basis throughout your work day, your work week, your work month? What are you doing to get more business? And how do you work that in efficiently throughout your day to make it look really effortless is I think the key and make money at the same time.
All of that is important, and recognize I've known you, I think, for probably going on 15 years now, and I would push back a little bit if it's okay when you say you're not a touchy-feely guy. I've really enjoyed all of our personal interactions and business interactions over the years. You've been a great friend and a great resource from a professional perspective as well. And in addition to that, I think you also have great resources. So I'll push back on that a little bit. I hope that's okay.
All right, that's okay. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Justin.
Within the real estate practice, one of the things that I wanted the Money Mile community to learn a little bit about was you have a very unique approach to real estate and the sales side of real estate. So I was hoping maybe you could start at a relatively high level to help our community understand a little bit about how you approach things differently and why you've chosen to take that path.
I approach things differently in that I am completely against the grain with my real estate home selling process. I was definitely 8 years ago when I kind of came out of the bag with it. I think some other big companies were kind of doing it, touching on it. It's evolved over the years, and I'm going to continue to evolve. But where I am now with it is I'm a flat fee home seller. I've decided that the prices that realtors are charging do not fit the day and time anymore. They don't fit where technology's at. 8 years ago, I looked back at my cell phone. I kind of started realizing, gosh, I can completely sell a home now from my phone. Gosh, I can completely sell a home without even going to it or even meeting the person. I can sell a San Francisco home from Calgary if I wanted to, or from Belgium, or from Tokyo. I kind of started looking at myself as more of a facilitator. And that's what I think I am. All I am as a realtor is a facilitator. I can facilitate every aspect of the process with my phone.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at it that way, you're like, wow, gosh, the job is easy. It's more streamlined. Maybe you don't need to pay 20 grand for a listing agent to list and sell your home. Maybe there should be some other options involved. And I kind of started working my way backwards and came out with my flat fee home sale. For a lot of people, it's a great value. I think there's definitely some people out there that want a more touchy-feely experience. That's what makes the world go around, but we all want something different. I kind of focused my trajectory towards complete like virtual home sale if I can.
I recognize that some of our listeners might not necessarily understand all the nuances behind real estate. And on the finance side, I try to help my clients understand at a high level kind of what goes on with these large dollar transactions. Could we just kind of walk through like the traditional model of real estate sales and how that works, and then how you approach it and what the difference and what the net result difference would be for an individual utilizing your services?
The answer to that simple. It's I'm here because I believe selling your home is essentially a business decision. This is about service, marketing, and your money. That's it. It's about the homeowner's money. This is all about money. It's not about anything else. Certainly not about me. And in my opinion, a relationship with somebody. It's about money in the seller's pocket. And my program gives a seller more money in their pocket for the same exact thing. You got product A over here. That's going to cost you $20,000 over here. And you're looking at a product B over here. And that's going to cost you $7,500. It's going to provide you the same exact service, the same function. It's going to look the same, if not better. The service is probably going to be, in my opinion, faster. And I say that because traditional realtors are out there wearing 10 different hats. They're doing all these things. I've turned my job into a desk job. I'm here with my phone. When you reach out, I respond. There's probably not even more of a minute goes by without me responding to my clients. And that's important. That's service. You want that. But it's the money. People come back to me for the money.
To get a little bit more specific, just take that a step further. I'm using an example here, so our listeners, as they're out on their long, steady run, hopefully they'll be able to follow along with us here. When I look at something like this in the traditional home sales world, the way that I describe that to my clients is, say you had a house that you were trying to sell and you think the market value is about $650,000. On average, I describe the transaction cost to be about 6%. So does that sound about right to you? If somebody just went to a general realtor off the street?
I think there are some agents still getting away with that total. I think there's some new rules and everything regarding commission that make that a little bit of a long answer now. I think if you want to break it down side by side, that 6%, you could go 3% for the listing agent, 3% for the buying agent. I think personally the 2.5 might be the new 3%. And I think as we progress in 5 years or whatever, that 2.5 is going to be 2%. I think it's going to keep coming down. People are wisening up to what really goes into selling homes now. And that's why it's going to keep going down.
So with the benefit of technology and whatnot, the different resources that are out there, a buyer looking to buy a home might go to a real estate agent and say, hey, I found these 5 homes online. I want to go see these 5 homes. So the relationship is different than what it used to be, where someone would say, hey, I want to buy a house. You were really subject to the realtor or to that agent's knowledge base, what they knew available in the area and what their neighborhoods were. We didn't have the same dissemination of information to the end buyer. So the technology has improved a lot. And I'm really glad to hear that you have improved your service model as well to help mirror with that technology. So if we look at that old school way of 6% transaction cost, call it half to the buyer, half to the seller, and yes, the numbers will get better overall. If we look at that $650,000 number at 6%, that's give or take about $39,000, so about $40,000 in total. Typically, half of that would go to the buyer's agent, and half of that goes to the seller's agent. Is that about right?
Correct, yeah.
If we think of that seller's agent otherwise getting about $20,000 of commission in a house sale like this, how is your approach different?
Let's take my side first, because I think that's the biggest money saver is instead of that $20,000 for your listing agent, I come right out of the gate telling you I'm going to charge you $7,500. That's what I've determined over the years that my time and my license in my almost 14 years of experience is worth to somebody. $7,500. I've been rolling with that for years. In addition to that, a client goes onto my website and they pay for whatever marketing they want. The client gets to choose. They choose what they pay. If they don't think a full feature video sells a home, they don't have to have one. They can pick just professional photos, drone photography, an add-on, or a Twilight Pictures add-on. It's up to them. It's not one size fits all when it comes to home selling and a lot of things. So I make the seller in charge with me. And that's something I rolled out recently. It was all included, but as you see, inflation, eggs go up and all that. I've been doing my 7,500 for years before a lot of inflation started. So instead of having a price increase, I put the cost of the marketing onto the client now. But instead of 20,000, it's 7,500 plus approximately 350 for the marketing. And then if you were to list with me, I would come out of the gate and tell you right out of the bag, when we list your home, we're not going to advertise, or don't let me tell agents that we're offering 3%, or don't let me tell them we're offering 2.5%, because that buyer agent on that other side might already be in contract at 2% with that buyer. And you might be throwing away 0.5% or maybe 1% of your own money. And furthermore, if I find the buyer on my own listing, I drop the commission down to 1% on my own listings. I think that's fair. I make money every single way on that, and that's a fair amount. And it shows a good value to my listings as well. Furthermore, on the flip side, if I were to find a buyer, I do flat fee home buys too. Why do I do that? That's not industry standard. That's crazy. Nobody's doing that. But why do I do it? Well, I believe I should get paid on my time. So the first 4 homes that I show a buyer, I'm charging you a flat fee of $10,000. That's what my time, my license, and my energy, my ability to be present and wherever you need me to be for the first 4 homes is worth. After that, from 5 homes on, it jumps to $15,000. For a lot of markets throughout, I currently live in Arizona. That's a screaming deal, especially in my neighborhood. It works out well for me, for the buyer. That's the evolution of my flat fee.
That is wonderful, Blake. And I recognize that to some extent, the percentage fee schedule and all of that is an artifact of the way things used to be. And you taking your time and expertise and understanding that your time as an expert in this field is extremely valuable. But making that an objective choice to the home seller or the home buyer in this case, giving them the choice to say, hey, well, we think we have lots of valuable things and you can choose to do this or you can choose to do that. You're kind of taking the veil off of all this, the mystery of it and wondering how everything works and taking that abstract pricing model of 6% or 5% or whatever it is, where we all know that the human brain was not designed to calculate percentages. We know 5% is better than 6%, but we don't know the true dollar amounts of that. It's difficult for us to calculate. So you making that an objective decision for the people that you work with, I think is a tremendous resource for them, allows for a lot more flexibility and clarity around what they're doing. To me, that seems like that could be a really strong reason of why your approach has done so well for you. You've seen such great results with it, and all of your clients have as well. That's my take on it. Does that sound like I'm on the right track there, or do you think I'm way off?
It is, yeah. It works well on the sales side. I've discovered people see that 7,500 and wow, it's a big sticker shock in the positive way for me. It makes it kind of a no-brainer. It makes it so much of a no-brainer that it causes them to say, well, what's the catch? What are you not doing here that I'm seeing? And that's a fair question. That's a good question. I always bring it up in our consult call, but if you want to know the answer is I don't do open houses or brokers tour. And why is that? Because those are two antiquated portions of the home sale process. You don't need those anymore to sell a home. Those work great before the internet. They work great for open houses anyways, for tire kickers and neighbors. The technology, websites, syndicated websites, Redfin, Trulia, Zillow, people are finding homes on there now. 100% of them are. That's it. Buyers drive the market, simply put.
Which is great. And I love that you're in the co-pilot seat with the buyers. You're in the co-pilot seat with the sellers, helping them better understand the way the industry used to work and how that there is now a better way to do things. So I love that you're helping out your clients in that way. Thank you for being part of the Money Mile community. As a valued listener of the Money Mile podcast, we want to hear from you. We are constantly working to improve our content to be more engaging and relevant to your fitness and finance journey. Whether you're a triathlete, a fitness enthusiast, or just looking forward to being an active retiree, or all of the above, your opinion matters to us. We've put together a quick survey to gather your thoughts on the podcast, what you love, and what we can improve on. The link to our survey will be in the show notes for newer episodes and will also be available in the Money for the Long Run newsletter. If you are not receiving the newsletter, please check out wallerfc.com and scroll to the bottom of the site to sign up for the newsletter. The survey will only take a few minutes, and as a thank you for sharing your insights, you will be entered to win a Garmin Forerunner 965 Premium Watch. This is the perfect companion for tracking your triathlon training, fitness goals, and more. Why should someone consider taking this survey? To help us create content that you love, to shape the future of Money Mile, and also to get a chance to win an amazing Garmin watch worth almost $600. Stay tuned and we'll announce the winner on the podcast soon. Don't miss your chance to have a say in the future of Money Mile and grab the chance to score an incredible Garmin watch as a thank you. We can't wait to hear what you think. Thank you for being part of the Money Mile community, and we'll let you get back to the rest of this episode. I understand you do have a couple of different approaches or a couple of different lines that you work in. The flat fee home sales is one, but then I also understand that you are an expert in your local area. So you've really developed a specialty within your local neighborhood. Could you tell us a little bit more about kind of what you're doing there?
I sure can. Like I said, been selling real estate for like 14 years. And, the term goes around the office, the water cooler, dominating your neighborhood. How can you dominate your neighborhood? Where you live, you get most of the business. That's what that means. Mm-hmm. And gosh, who wouldn't want that as a realtor, right? business right next door, essentially. So yeah, I moved states, and that's tough to do, right? When you're earning 100% commission and you don't know anybody. Moved into a new neighborhood. It's been a long process, and the biggest change has been when I decided to basically create a free Facebook page, a Facebook group called Sterling Grove Real Estate. That's the name of the neighborhood I live in, Sterling Grove. I created it. It's a country club where I live. I went into the members only directory. I went person by person down their Facebook site, inviting each person with a link to join the page. So I started posting and then started inviting, and had a calendared event every day to invite 30 people, because Facebook won't allow you to message more than 30 that you're not friends with. So it was a long process. There's hundreds of people that live here. And I finally got through with that and started inviting people from other local real estate pages. And until, now I'm just shy of 800 members on that. And it's a calendared event to post something each day on there. And it's something I'm already looking at. I'm a neighbor. I live here. I own a house here. I'm genuinely interested in real estate here. I'm already looking at real estate. It's easy every day to have something to post and of interest from a perspective of a homeowner, not just some Joe Schmo realtor. And so it's some deep dives into tax records or the sales office and statistics, and it's stuff that people can really get into, I think. So long story short, that free event of creating that has turned into a genuine moneymaker for me. And people now see me as the expert on real estate in the neighborhood. I'm getting probably at least one Facebook inquiry from that a week to sell a home, or future sale, perhaps. And that's a massive shift from years ago. And that's a dream goal of a realtor, is having people call you. They're saying, hey, I'd like to give you business and a chance to earn money. Like, that's a dream for me. And instead of having to do it the old way, which is how I built my business, on cold calls, and it's the complete opposite. That's the hard way. This way is really cool. And I'm looking forward to researching more and discovering more cool facts for the neighborhood, and hopefully continuing that position there with my neighbors.
In relation to the Sterling Grove real estate page, and again, we'll put the links to all these resources in the show notes when we're done here, so our listeners can check those out. But in addition to that, you are also as a tremendous resource for the community as one. You share daily on technical tidbits of real estate and make all of that very accessible for the local area people. But you're also sharing your expertise, and you're being a resource to everyone out there, not with the expectation that everyone in Sterling Grove has to work with you individually. You're just giving back to your community in a great way, sharing really valuable information with all the members there. It's a great way to build a reputation as somebody that cares about their neighborhood, and you're obviously investing in them significantly. As I understand it, you're also doing some other things, investing in your community beyond just the Facebook page. Could you tell us a little bit about some of the other endeavors that you've taken on recently?
Tops on my list is, as you know, I've been obsessed for many years with running, and how that's basically changed my life. It's taken me from unhealthy lifestyle to a positive, healthy lifestyle. And so I've always been fixated on that. But one thing that comes to mind is I've decided out of nowhere, just like out of nowhere, I decided to do an Ironman or run 100. I said, I'm not a race director or anything close to the sort, but I want to start a 5K race and do it all for charity. I've never done that before, but I'm going to do it this Thanksgiving. And I did that last year, and it was pretty cool. Talk about a great, positive neighborhood event that gives back, that's healthy, and it's on a great day, Thanksgiving. It's a turkey trot, yes. And it gives back to a local charity. St. Mary's Food Bank was last year and this year. There's 2 years now under my belt with this. But first year, we only raised $2,900. This year, we raised $21,000. Talk about scale. And nobody made a dime except for St. Mary's. Pretty cool. And there's a lot of happy neighbors and faces. And it was a hard to do, but a fun neighborhood get together. And I think looking back on it as a dad, all you parents out there in podcast land, you can probably see it. You start doing something like that in your neighborhood for years and years with your kids, and it's something your kids will look back on kind of as an event in life, that they love doing, hopefully.
Well, I think that it's great that you decided to do something kind of blending your love of your neighborhood, your love of running, and blending those things together and supporting your community in such a wonderful way, raising significant amounts of dollars and contributing your time to build up your neighborhood, to support charities, local charities that are important to you and your family. I just think that it's a fantastic thing that you've done there. I really appreciate you as a person putting in your time and energy to make that happen. I'm sure that had a positive impact on lots of folks. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. No, it's been a wild ride. It's really fun though, looking back. So can't wait for next year.
Very good. Well, as you mentioned, you've got your systems and processes in place. You're getting things better on that side as well. I'm sure next year is going to be even better than it was this year. So I wish you the best of luck with all of that.
Thank you, sir.
Blake, I very much appreciate you sharing a little bit of your time and expertise with us. As we're going through things here, I would like to kind of pass the mic to you as well and give you an opportunity to let the listeners know how they can find you, learn more about what you're doing, and just kind of share with us how they can connect with you.
You bet. Well, the best way is please go and check out flatfeehomesales.net. And that has everything I think you might need to know about my business model. Unlike every other traditional realtor, I am 100% transparent on there, and you can see my entire business model online. I do not hide anything or play games. It's right there for you to see. And you can schedule a call with me. You can check out even if you want, my Sterling Grove Facebook page. It's called Sterling Grove Real Estate. Find it, check it out. And my phone number is all over my website. Give me a call, give me a text if you want to chat more. I sell homes throughout California and throughout Arizona. I'm licensed in both states, and I argue that I can do it 100% virtual. And I'd love 5 minutes of your time to tell you how I'm going to do that.
That is wonderful, Blake. And having worked with Blake professionally for years, I would definitely support that. If you are even considering selling a home or entering into a real estate transaction, I generally recommend that my clients go out and get some different opinions of how things work, just so they can educate themselves on these large-scale financial decisions. I think Blake would be a tremendous resource for anyone who's entertaining the idea of a home sale or home purchase, just to understand that there are different ways to go about this, and you're not necessarily tied to the way that came up hundreds and dozens and hundreds of years ago. There's a new way to do things. I almost think it feels like there's a new sheriff in town. There's a new way to get this done and get it done better. So if you're looking at any of these things, I'd highly recommend you check that out. So the Sterling Grove real estate page and also the flatfeehomesales.net. But we will have links to those in the show notes there. Blake, again, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience before we let you go?
Thank you for your time and chance to be on this podcast. This is my first podcast. I got podcast nerves here, being my first one. So you have to excuse me. And happy running out there, or cycling if that's your thing.
Wonderful. Thanks, Blake.
Thank you.
I hope this episode of Money Mile was valuable for you. If it was, please share the podcast with your training buddies and friends. Keep in mind that if you work out, everything else will too, and we'll look forward to talking with you next time on Money Mile.